Hey guys, and welcome to the madness. Once and for all, we get to ask the biggest question in nature. Who is the king of the jungle? Is it the elvish lion or the mighty Gary, the Bastiladon of the children of the old ones? Only time will tell. I'm Rahagra, but today we're going to be delving into a fight between the mighty warrior Logic and Grombrindle, two out-and-out Dowies at heart, two Dowie mains, and not a single dwarf on site today. In fact, we have the Lizardmen up against some Elgi, up against some good old-fashioned High Elves, both of which are going to be bringing some sub-factions. So let's get into this builds and start to dissect them. For the forces of the Dino Boys, we have a couple of Chameleon Stalkers, one on either flank. Really nice burst damage, can be quite effective up against the expensive yet squishy Elvish folk. And in the front, we have double Chameleon Skinks. I really love the design of Chameleon Skinks. I know they're a very annoying unit, so you kind of look at them and go, oh no, it's more chameleons. But look at the little toad hats and little toads strapped to them. Poor little creatures don't know what's coming for them. So double Chameleon Skinks in the front can really do some nice harass. Now, for the main battle line, it is a bit of a sandwich here. Skinks on the outside, so they are our bread and butter here. Skink coats with javelins and a juicy Saurus warrior for the fill-in. Double Saurus warriors, in fact, and this is, as you guys have probably no doubt gathered by now, is Nakai's sub-faction. And their color scheme is really haunting this light bluish, glowy, ethereal feel to them as they march towards the battle. They truly are the spirits of the jungle. And with the spirits of the jungle comes the king, the beast, the Bastiladon with Ark of Sotek attached to its back. We have two of these bad boys, pretty good actually up against High Elves. Again, anything that's air effect or magical damage or burst damage in general tends to be very effective up against the High Elves due to how squishy and expensive they are. So the Ark of Sotek, an absolute perfect counter to them if you can get them engaged with the enemy and not obliterated on the approach. We also have a double Feral Cold One, so Tunis of Clever Gales, the cohort of Sotek who are bodyguarding a Saurus Scar veteran today, who is actually coming in on foot, and he looks really cool, although he's kind of morphed into a Cold One right now, so a bit of X-rated action will turn away and give those guys a bit of privacy. We did the Skink Priest of B, so a Manticore summon as well as Pan's Impenetrable Pelt. Big fan of that spell, I think it is heavily underrated. And then we also have Nakai the Wanderer, so the spirit has emerged itself to bring wrath and ruin to the people of the Elves. They have stood on Nakai's territory, and Nakai doesn't like that. He's coming with all the goodies today. He does have the perfect Vigor Golden Tributes, Miasma of Despair, and the Primal Roar. They're actually really powerful items and abilities. Unfortunately, Nakai is just so expensive. Speaking of expensive lords as well, who often kind of struggle because of that price, it is Elfarian the Grim's sub-faction for the High Elves today. So Foot Elfarian the Grim, what a Chad pick, coming in, dual-wielding a spear and a sword. He's one of the first people to be able to master that tactic. Coming in with the Helm of Yivers, with the Fang Sword of Elfarian, Fiery Convocation, Soul Quench, and Apotheosis. A relatively cheap lord, though, who is also your spellcaster, so not a bad pick whatsoever, particularly when he's cheap like this on foot. I love his flowing cape there, getting taken up by the wind. In the main battle line, it is Spearman guarding the flanks with some Silvern Guard in the front line, both chevroned up to give a little bit more sturdiness. More Silvern Guard guarding the rears. We also have triple cavalry here in the form of Illyrian Reavers. Double lines, which I'm very excited to see in action. These are probably my favourite High Elf unit, is the mighty Rahagra's Pride. Regiment of renowned war lions who look so vicious. Look at his little face. He's so happy to be here, but at the same time, you know he's going to rip your heart out, gobble it up, and devour your flesh and soul. So double war lines in the middle, as well as a single Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower and double Lothran Seagull. It's always funny to watch Grombrindle play other factions which aren't dwarves. He can basically make any faction play like dwarves. It really truly is an art, and you can see the Dowie defensive geometry well and truly on display from the High Elf forces. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. So the Lizardmen, of course, are going to be having to take a bit of the initiative here and push forward as quickly as possible, and this can be a bit of a problem for the Bastiladons. They're relatively tanky with 140 armor, but it is taking quite a big pound, and it is slow and slumberous, and can certainly not juke super effectively. Looks like quite a bit of damage is unfortunately hitting at this poor, beautiful, majestic beastie. Big Fat Soul Quench is going to go down the line. It looks like it was aimed at the Skink Priest. Luckily, one of the Clever Gales dived in the way. Unfortunately for that Clever Gale, it did actually end up costing it its life, but they shall be remembered in the halls of the old ones. As the Lizardmen start to come in for a nice bit of a surround, a little cheek hit and run with the Rahagra's Pride, hopping on top of the skink cohorts and then popping Mighty Roar, lowering the speed and leadership of all these troops. They're taking a decent amount of javelin fire back, but because they are a White Lion unit, they do of course have missile resistance. Lovely counterpunch. He actually brings in the Illyrian Reavers and turns and jumps the Feral Cold Ones. That should be a dead unit of Clever Gales, but the Rahagra's Pride have taken an absolute beating for that cost, and they're a very expensive unit, so kind of been absorbing all this chameleon skink pressure as well as the javelins. I don't know if that actually was the best trade, but hey, he got a unit off the field. Rahagra's Pride are still alive and kicking. We do have a Manticore summon come down. It's going to instantly jump on top of the Eelclaw Bolt Thrower. Reavers are going to try to counterpunch where possible. Nice interception on the back here as well. Spotting those Chameleon Stalkers, trying to get into the back line and jumping them with the Reavers. So we do have some skink cohorts looking to fight them. Looks like a bit of a stalemate in the fight. Neither team wanted to actually move forward, but looks like the attack orders have been given now as the Cult of Sotek jump into the Silveren Guard, who have been made unbreakable, and just so because Nakai is wandering through them, flinging them left, right, and center, biting off Elvish heads and yelling all kind of manner of threats that they probably do not understand. Reavers as well as Rahagra's Pride are bouncing around the back line, shutting down skink cohorts and chameleon skinks, which is some lovely play. Manticore is currently vibing up in the skies. Looks like it has unfortunately shattered here, attempting to take out the Bolt Thrower and failing in that mission. Warline doing some good pressure to the chameleon stalkers on the flanks, and in the center Nakai is getting absolutely dumpstered. Look at this bow pressure coming in, raining shot after shot into Nakai, who's also fighting amongst Silveren Guard, but then he comes in with the Miasma of Despair, terrifying all those who shall oppose him. Saurus Scarveteran holding on in there as well as more Feral Cold Ones do join in the party. Arcs of Sotek jumping into Spearmen. They don't need to be too worried about jumping into Spearmen. Yes, they have that anti-large, but hey, it's got 140 armor, and Spearmen have very low AP, so they can't actually do that much damage to it. Chameleon Skinks will be kiting back. Lothran Seaguard bowline is still well and truly active. However, the Saurus Warriors are slowly carving their way through that front line, plus we have yet another Manticore summon. It does look like Nakai is somehow stabilized. He took such a pounding, but he's still going strong. Elfarin the Green having to resort to magical trickery to try to heal himself up as the Saurus Scarveteran, Cult of Sotek, and Nakai start pounding him down. And in comes the Arc of Sotek, using that mass to drive itself into the back line and shut down the Lothran Seaguard, who are taking considerable casualties now. That Manticore once again really beelining for the Eelclaw Bolt Thrower. Lovely rear attack here from the Rahagra's Pride and Illyrian Reavers, who do return from their sally forth to hunt down chameleon skinks and stalkers, but the Saurus Warriors are actually clinging on here and doing some pretty decent damage back. Despite being surrounded by 4 units, they actually break the Illyrian Reavers and force the lines to retreat. Saurus Warriors are so Chad, man. I love them. Nakai is actually beating back Elfran the Grim, who's having to use even more witchcraft to try and keep himself alive. Another apotheosis. Nakai the Wanderer, the cold blood running through his veins, stares down his opponent, and with his cohort of Sotek bodyguard, is doing a pretty decent job down here on this side. There's still a lot of elves left on the battlefield, however, and not that many Lizardmen. Lothran Seaguard are being driven away. Skink Priest is trying to shut down the back line with the support of the Arc of Sotek. This second Arc of Sotek as well is just butchering Silveren Guard with the help of some skink cohorts and some chameleon skinks, who did actually manage to survive there, the fight up against the Reavers, though some are starting to return. A couple of bolts in them should force them off for good. Arcs of Sotek starting to come together in unison, and a lovely use of that ability to really start hampering at the Silveren Guard, who are currently being made unbreakable. It does look Elfarin has popped another Apotheosis as well as the Fang Sword. He's going to be coming with a Soul Quench, which is not a bad idea whatsoever. And he smacks Nakai directly in the face, who in response just jumps quite happily into Elfarin, running him over. Pound's Imperial Pelt does go down, and he takes to the fight once more. And they are actually beating up Elfarin. This is so funny. Nakai is been so beat up for so long, and they can't quite kill him. Down just 399 HP, though. This could be the end. One more good hit, and it should be enough to finish him off. We have some Spearmen running into support as well, and things are certainly starting to look a little bit bleak for the Dino Boys. Lothran Seaguard are back online. It looks like the Arc of Sotek has been forced off. Chameleons are trying to fight, but there's a lot of shielded Elvish forces left, and they don't have that much ammunition remaining. Nakai is surrounded by enemies, roaring viciously at them. Bring it on. I want all the smoke, all the fire, and he is just dancing and showering in the blood of his enemies. Saurus Scarveteran is also trying his best to beat back Elfarin the Grim, but Nakai is so low. Still Happy Boy, though, skipping through the enemy, and once again shoves Elfarin the Grim's face down into the dirt. Saurus Scarveteran coming in for the 2v1 tag team fight. Nakai maybe wants to get out of here, I don't know. He's only got 145 HP, but hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But no, he does eventually get smited. That spear rupturing underneath the neck of Nakai and pushing its way through his skull, claiming the life of the mighty Wanderer. Don't worry, the jungle will consume him, and he'll be back better than ever. Both for crews are running for their lives, though. Likewise are the Silvering God, and Lothran and Sea Guard starting to get shut down as the Saurus Warriors plow their way through the front line, and one Arc of Sotek is still going strong. They're chasing off the Lothran Sea Guard, who are currently terrified and running for their life, with even more Saurus returning, as well as some Chameleon Stalkers. A very close fight despite the loss of Nakai, and Elfarion the Grim needs to be careful, because he could certainly go down here. The Cohort of Sotek are fighting the Saurus Scar Veterans here, as well as the Skink Priest, all trying to get on top of Elfarion the Grim right now, who does pop his mighty helm to encourage the Spearmen to fight to the death. Elfarion is down to 900 HP, and he's actually maxed out his healing cap, which is pretty impressive with the use of those apotheosises. Saurus Scar Veteran, unfortunately, is getting beaten back here, and the Elves starting to try to press their advantage, but it actually looks like in the main fight, the Dino Boys are the one who are driving back the enemy. Chameleon Skinks, Blowpipe, boom, 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 all day long into the back of the enemy, slowing them down and poisoning them, and we have a nice little double Saurus Warrior push here, driving at the heart of so many high health forces, and we've got Chameleon Stalkers coming in the rear. This could well be the end of the Lothran Sea God, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Elves being forced off in one go. Lovely play by the Lizardman player, just ushering them off the battlefield and driving them away from the main fight. We do have the Arc of Sotek hunting down some Silvering Guard who are running for their life. Chameleon Skinks also want to get involved in the party. We do have some Stalkers here who have been forgotten. They need to come back and start beating down the Elvish forces. Balance power is pretty much dead even though, and if Elfarion the Grim can make it to the Silvering Guard, they have a fantastic shout, because in theory the Silvering Guard should be good against everything that's left. Maybe the Saurus Warriors will be the problem though. 36 in one unit and 31 in the other, but their leadership certainly isn't going to be super mighty. Chameleons do eventually catch the Silvering Guard. They then decide to fall back, realizing that Elfarion the Grim's here, and then go in for the kill once more. They're not scared. The Arc of Sotek is going to be launching those javelins off its back, doing some pretty decent damage. If they can get them onto Elfarion, they can really start racking up a decent amount, like hundreds of hit points of damage. It can be really scary. Elfarion just beeline for the Bastildon. I would probably turn and face this right now. He doesn't have anti-large or anything, and that's just what the Arc of Sotek's going to do. Just ramrod Elfarion. It's like, oh, you want to scrap? You want to go with me? I don't think so. It does look like we get the Sneaky Snakes. Much better against the infantry, of course, but hey, any damage is damage at the end of the day on Elfarion right now. Silvering Guard are able to form a hastily made shield wall and drive back the Chameleon Skinks into the jungles. Elfarion the Grim barely clinging on, but he does currently have the Fang Sword active, and that means he could do a pretty decent amount of work to the Bastildon, whilst also absorbing some damage. In the distance, we do have Chameleon Skinks running down Spearmen, and somehow that Skink Priest has returned. He has Pound's Impenetrable Pelt, and he's going to be dropping it on the Arc of Sotek, which is a lovely use of that spell, but is it a little bit too little too late? The Lizardmen forces starting to waver just as the Saurus Warriors start to arrive, and Elfarion makes his Silvering Guard unbreakable, which is terrible, because normally they could be tear out and out to this very moment. Instead, they're poking down the Arc of Sotek, and it has been driven from the battlefield just as Elfarion the Grim is terrified. That must be his worst nightmare right now. He's terrified from this Bastildon, and he's trying to run away from it, and it's just jogging happily alongside him. But now it is his turn to turn and fight and try to drag down the majestic beastie. Silvering Guard are surrounded by Saurus Warriors. Saurus Warriors doing a decent amount of kills though so far, up to 58 and 98. We do have some Chameleon Stalkers return to the fight. Balance power though is in the favor of the Elves. We still have those Chameleon Stalkers who have not yet been remembered. The Skink Priest has unfortunately shattered here. Those Stalkers get back and do a nice surround on the Silvering Guard. Perhaps there is hope for the Dino Folk, but the Saurus Warriors are really struggling right now. They are rampaging though into those Silvering Guard. Lovely play here, using the Chameleon Skinks to hold in and pin in Elfarion the Grim, and trying to get some distance between Elfarion and the Bastildon so that it may rally. It still has 740 HP. There's a good chance it could come back. It causes terror, and it hits like an absolute truck on the charge, so it might be able to come back in here and either finish off Elfarion or help drag down or tear out the Silvering Guard, who are currently fighting strong against overwhelming numbers. Chameleon Skinks trying their best to bring down Elfarin, who's down just 460 HP and still going on. More Chameleons are coming back, and it does look like the Sovereign Guard have been completely surrounded now. Still got those Stalkers in the distance. They're watching on, cheering on their lads, trying to debate whether or not they should be coming back in. And the Sovereign Guard have had to form a porcupine of pointy spears and well-made elvish armor, as the Saurus are really battering at the gates with the Chameleons here. How on earth these Sovereign Guard are still fighting, I will never know, but they're probably being inspired right now by Elfarin, who is screaming battle cries. Keep fighting, lads. We can hold off this filthy tide. And they drive back. All of the units of the Lizardmen are in mass rout. Both Saurus are legging it, as well are the Chameleon Skinks. And the Ark of Sotek, who only just came back, decides, oh no, all my friends are running away. I probably don't want to be here. But we have the dreaded tactical reserve still of these Chameleon Stalkers who can come back into the fray. This is huge, though. If the Sovereign Guard are able to force off both Saurus Warriors units, that's a decent amount of punch gone. There's still 19 models and 26 models. They'd probably be enough to finish off the Sovereign Guard. You can see at the moment, we are trying to rally some troops over here as well. We have the Chameleon Skinks, 2 units, as well as the Ark of Sotek, and the Elvish forces do what they should be doing, just push away the Saurus Warriors and get them off the battlefield, and it looks like they are going to be able to achieve that goal. Though the Saurus are making it particularly difficult for them. We're going, you know what, I don't want to run to that board edge. I want to run to the board edge at the other side of the map. I'm going to go that way, and they've literally just run the complete opposite direction away, which must be really infuriating for the High Elves right now, because now they have to split up their forces, and they need to be very, very, very careful here. The Chameleon Stalkers do smell blood. If they can hop on top of Elfarin, they might be able to assassinate him in time. He only has 369 HP, and if he breaks, the Sovereign Guard probably won't stand too much of a chance. Saurus Warriors are still being pushed off here. Sovereign Guard quite happy, although very bloodied, and they've lost a lot of friends, but they're happy to get rid of these Saurus and drive them from the battlefield. The cold-blooded creatures unfortunately do break here, and it looks like they shall be getting ushered off rather lovely there by the Elvish forces. As for the dinos, you can see they are starting to come back a little bit. Got Chameleon Stalkers and Saurus Warriors rallying together. Unfortunately, the Ark of Sotek, as well as these Chameleon Skinks, are still running for their lives. -1 leadership, though. There's a good chance the Ark might be able to rally and come back in the later stages of the fight. And here we go, the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny. Good versus good. Lizard versus Elf. Shad v Shad. Who's going to be able to take this one? We do have a decent amount of Saurus here. 22 plus 57 Chameleon Stalkers versus 39 Sovereign Guard and a really beat up Elfarin the Grim. If they can kill Elfarin, it would be a massive boon and victory. Or if they can break the Sovereign Guard quick enough, we're very close now to the edge of the board, and they'll probably be forced off and break. Looks like the Chameleon Stalkers have revealed their position, looking to charge in, and they decide, you know what, we're actually going to wait for our Saurus Warriors, which is probably a better play here. Might be even worth whipping the Chameleon Stalkers up and around the flank, particularly if such beat-up units like this, being charged in the flank or the rear, can make a big difference to their leadership and morale. And you can see that's just what they're going to be doing, just sort of bounding their way up around. They got some really cool running animations, actually. They kind of hop around the battlefield, and the Chameleons are going to be moving around. Sovereign Guard turn their backs, but realize, hey, we don't really have an option here. We're going to get surrounded at some point, so we're just going to charge forward, try and get that charge bonus on the Saurus Warriors and break them as quickly as possible. And the Saurus do march forward, crashing in to the Sovereign Guard, the brave Elvish forces, as the Chameleons do actually jump on Elfarin the Grim, going for that assassination. Unbreakable has been popped on the Sovereign Guard, who drive back the Saurus quickly and rally to try to deal with the Chameleon Stalkers, who are dragging down Elfarin the Grim. They're clawing, scratching at him, whacking with bone clubs and poisoning him at the same time, and Elfarin starts running for his life. A brave vanguard of Chameleon Stalkers hangs back to deal with and pin in the Sovereign Guard, while the rest escort Elfarin from the battlefield. The fang sword of Elfarin is shining bright, but it is also a dying star, and Elfarin does seem to be getting driven off the battlefield here, down to -1 leadership and 200 or 100 now, 91 HP. It looks like he may well go down, and in the distance you can hear a victorious roar as the Ark of Sotek rallies on the edge of the battle. The Sovereign Guard can hear that cry, and they know they are undone. A Pyrrhic victory here for the forces of the Dino Boys and the mighty Logic. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. That was an absolutely wild back and forth game. And I think it does prove once and for all that the Bastiladon is the true king of the jungle. If you go out and about and people are like, oh yeah, you know, the lion, the king of the jungle, you slap that person. You slap them hard in the face and you say, no. The Bastiladon, Gary is king, and if they want proof, come back, show them this replay. Once again, well played to the mighty Grombrindle, aka Chad Forgrim, and Logic. Logic is also a fantastic YouTuber, goes by a name of Logic_EU. Should definitely go into your Google search bar right now, type in Logic_EU, you'll see a little picture of a dwarf. You click on that picture of a dwarf, you get a load of awesome content. So make sure you go check him out as well. And what a scrap, Elfarian versus Nakai, the truest fight if ever there was one. I love the Warlion play as well. Rahagra's Pride getting just shy there of 950 damage value and 96 kills, which is certainly quite standout. But likewise, the ever-vigilant Saurus Warriors just so good into the later stages of the game, grinding their way through the Elvish forces, and it was just about enough. I will delve into the damage dealt and damage value of all of these units in just a second, but if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a big fat thumbs up, make sure to subscribe as well for more Total War Warhammer content into the future, and comment down below what you thought of the battle. Bucket ton of links in the description to my Patreon, to my Twitch, where I'm actually going to be streaming that later today with Logic, which is going to be pretty good fun, as well as links to my Discord, where you can submit replays, get involved in tournaments and events that I host. And I get a lot of people ask me, how do I submit replays to you? That's where you do it. You do it in my Discord. There's always a link down below every single video. Back to the battle. Let's see how it did play out. Nakai the Wanderer, 1,928 damage value. Not quite paying for himself. He did come fully kitted today, which makes him rather expensive. 36 kills though, and he dueled Elfarian on a weakened state for a very, very long time, and really did bring the pain. And the elf only survived because of some of his elvish trickery, using those apotheoses to make himself a bit more stable. Skink Priest got down and dirty even, 5 kills, 71 damage value. Nice Manticore summons to eventually take down the Bolt Thrower, though if he had popped one Manticore on Elfarian, the battle may have been over a lot quicker. Saurus Scarvitron, 1,426 damage value. Lovely work there. It's really cool to see a foot Saurus Scarvitron in action. A nice bodyguard for the Nakai boy. 540 damage and 575 from the Chameleon Stalkers. This unit, though, knowing when to strike, waiting in tactical reserve, and bam, pouncing upon their opponent in the later stages of the battle and securing victory. The Source Warriors are so good, man. 84 kills, 106 kills, 1,000 value, 963. Such a solid mid-tier infantry unit. 1.6k damage value on the cohort of Sotek with 50 kills. You can really not underestimate that poison and the AP. They were able to surround Elfarian and start to drag him down in the mid stages of the battle before they were eventually defeated. The Javelins, one paid for itself, one didn't quite pay for itself, so evening out relatively nicely there. Just getting some decent damage, a very powerful unit. As for the Chameleon Skinks, 873 damage value and 850 is certainly very nice, particularly with 95 and 45 kills. Nice reorganizing of the back line and protecting it after the initial push from the Reavers and the Warlines. The Clever Girls didn't do too much, sadly. 235 and 184 damage value. The Arcs of Sotek, though, beautiful beasts, very majestic. 24 kills and 719 damage value. And then 65 kills, 1,107 value on itself. And that glorious final roar to triumph and be kind of a trumpet of victory there. As for Chad Grombrindle, bringing his favourite elf, actually, so his favourite sub-faction of them, in Elfarian the Grim. It's so cool to see a third Elfarian the Grim, particularly one who's actually able to get some really lovely value. 2,626 damage value, with over 10k damage dealt. Some nice healing was popped on himself to keep him alive and active. Good uses of the Helm as well in the later stages of the battle. The Spearmen didn't do too much. The Silvern Guard, however, held for a super long time. 39, 26, 80, and 93 kills with 694, 835, 430, and 970 damage value. Lothran Seaguard got 1,110 and 1,126 damage value. That is absolutely disgusting. The majority of that did come from piercing the thick hide of Nakai and also whittling down at those Arcs of Sotek. So really good job there by Grombrindle protecting these ranged units. As for the cavalry, 345, 600, and 538 damage value isn't too shabby. 69 kills as well. These Illyrian Reavers slowly falling in to worshipping Slanesh here. Warlines did do a pretty decent job. 664 value as well as 949 with 58 and 96 kills apiece. The Bolt Thrower, 740, was really nice on the approach, but then eventually got shut down quite badly there by the Manticore summons. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a good fun cast. And until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.